Good afternoon, class. Today we're going to have a video lesson on emotional intelligence. To this point, you've been doing some self-guided study and learning about trust, psychological safety, collaborative work environments, and where to best succeed. And today I want to ensure that we get through this lesson, and then it'll kind of culminate lots of the thoughts that we've been having and how to kind of create some of these environments and how to be a person that is going to best create these environments. And so that's our agenda, today's lesson, and then to do some offline work. So, some questions. Is there one leadership style that is best? In the classroom, we talk about this for a little while. We talked about traits of leadership. We talked about what makes good leaders. Is someone with the highest IQ the best leader? Is someone who is the strictest the best leader? We've talked about management styles, behavioral, classical. There's all these different things that we've been talking about that don't point to a specific style. Um, and then we get to qualities, right? Are there specific qualities that make leaders better or worse? And we've identified several, some conflicting and some in line with what we talked about. Um, we talked about things like fair process. We talked about things like capitalization. But what makes leaders able to do these things effectively? Um, Another question. Do you know anyone who seemed amazing for a job with great technical skills and intelligence, but yet failed at this specific job? You can take a minute to think about that if you want, but there are often times where people who on paper they have the resume, they have the experiences, they look like they are going to be the ideal person for the job. Yet when they get in these positions of leadership, they end up failing. They end up unsuccessful, inability to lead their teams, even though they have all the requisite skills to succeed. While there are others who maybe don't have the resume, maybe they don't have the Harvard MBA or the MIT skills, right? But they lead well, right? They're extraordinarily effective at leading teams in a specific task or goal or setting, but they're not the smartest person in the room necessarily. So um, the question is, why do these things happen? Why one person who seems perfect for a role is not perfect for it, while another who seems mediocre does it exceptionally well? Um, I'd like to throw in the possibility of emotional intelligence being the reason. So, what is emotional intelligence exactly? And so, I want to make sure that we do not um, think of emotional intelligence as being emotional, which is very, very untrue. It's not about being emotional. It's about being able to understand your feelings, understand how you impact each other. It is, by definition, the ability to manage our emotions in social relationships. And so, why is that important? There have been some studies that effective leaders are typically alike in one crucial way. They all have a high degree of emotional intelligence. And this is not to say that they are all emotionally intelligent yet not smart. They can be both, but there are times when leaders who have higher emotional intelligence and not as much performance or IQ are more effective than people with higher IQ but lower emotional intelligence. And this relates very much to that performance versus trust kind of chart that was shown by Simon Sinek, right? And so we're going to try to figure out why is this the case and what does this actually mean. And so there are other studies that have shown that emotional intelligence has been shown to be twice as important as technical skills and IQ for jobs at all levels. And this sounds bizarre to some, yet I think if you look at it this way, it might make more sense. It says, as the job level increases, the importance of emotional intelligence increases as well. So, do I need you to be emotionally intelligent if you are a fry cook at McDonald's? Not so much. I just need you to know how to do the job and to listen to instructions. Yet, say if you take that same place of work, you'll have someone who's in charge of a different section. You have a manager, you have an owner of a business. And so, technical skills become less and less important as you go up the ladder. Your abilities to be emotionally intelligent, your abilities to read your employees, your ability to relate to people becomes increasingly more important, and your technical skill is um, less a problem or is less important as your ability to make your people work better. and that requires emotional intelligence. And so let's just see what that emotional intelligence actually talks about. And so there are 5 components. The first is self-awareness. And self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your moods, emotions, and drives, as well as their effects on other people. And that's an important distinction, right? You have to be able to understand how you're feeling, and what's driving you, and what's impacting you, but also to understand how that is going to impact those around you. Self-confidence is part of self-awareness, right? Someone who always underestimates themselves is not that self-aware, because you should be self-aware of what you can do well, right? And that's important because you want to understand what is your strength and where can you employ your strengths best, because that's also going to tell you where you are weak, right? You have to have a realistic self-assessment of yourself, right? Know where you are strong, know where you have good skills, and also know where maybe you need to pass along that task. Maybe you need to get someone else to do that work for you, because in reality, your self-confidence shouldn't be overconfidence. It should be realistic confidence in your skills and realistic assessment of where maybe you are not that good. Someone who is self-aware has often will have a self-deprecating sense of humor, and if you don't know what that is, that means basically someone who's able to make fun of themselves, right? You know those people, they're supremely confident in themselves that when they have deficiency, they can laugh at it. They're aware of it. They are open about it. They don't need to hide their deficiency. You know, it's just part of who they are, and understanding that allows you to be able to overcome that with any number of ways, through hiring, through avoidance, through whatever it needs to be. You have to be aware and comfortable, be aware and be comfortable with maybe where you lack. Um, you talk about someone on a glass half empty, glass half full, optimism versus pessimism. Sorry, optimism versus pessimism. Um, we don't want someone who is always saying we are the best, we're the best, but we also want someone who is always saying, "Oh my goodness, the sky is falling, everything's terrible." Right? You need to be someone who's leading with a good head on their shoulders, who is even keeled, who understands the situation, understands when the situation is bad, and understands when the situation is good. Not too much, not too little. Right? So that person's someone who you want to lead you, and that's the person that you want to be leading other people. This is similar to the self-confidence and the self-assessment parts. Understand your own abilities and your own limitations. What can you do? What can't you do? That's super important in your hiring decisions, super important in your management decisions. This quote, a self-aware job candidate will be frank in admitting to failure and will often tell their tales with a smile. And so there are often times when we talk about job interviews, or when a job interview candidate will be asked the question, what is your greatest flaw, or what's your weakness? And so sometimes job candidates who are not very self-aware will just say things that are, I work too hard, or I'm a perfectionist. Like these aren't weaknesses, right? They're just uncomfortable with their ability to realistically self-assess, or to um, be realistic with who they are and what maybe their weaknesses are. And if that's what they truly believe, then they're not overcoming their weaknesses. They're not making themselves better, right? That might just be an answer because you don't want to say what your weakness is. But if you truly believe that, that is a problem. That's a limitation of your ability to assess yourself. And that is a limitation in your self-awareness, which is the first of 5 of the emotional intelligence traits. The second is self-regulation. Self-regulation is often the trait that is talked about when we talk about students. You can't self-regulate. You're not able to control your reactions, right? So are you able to control or redirect disruptive impulses and moods, right? Can you regulate how you feel? Can you regulate how you act, or when you act, or the speed of your action, right? The propensity to suspend judgment, to think before acting, right? Can you not react, We talked about this before in good leaders and managers, right? We want someone who's not going to be super reactive, not going to react to a comment, a situation brashly, right? You want them to think. You want them to be active rather than reactive. Um, Being able to self-regulate is someone who is going to be more trustworthy and have more integrity. And that might not be the easiest connection, but think about this. Think about someone who is very reactive, right? If they're very reactive and they're going to react to a news release, they're going to react to an employee, they're going to react to problems without the ability to kind of stop and kind of you know, take in what's going on, right? To take stock in the situation, right? If they just react very quickly, um, you can't trust their decision making, right? You can't trust that they're going to make the right choice in the moment in time because they haven't gathered all the information or they're just reacting emotionally, right? And so remember, emotional intelligence is not to be emotional; it's to have control over your emotion, to understand how it's going to control you, and rather than you control it, right? So think about Donald Trump, right? Regardless of your opinion of Donald Trump or if you think he's a great president or a terrible president, the fact that he tweets and reacts to things in the moment is a huge sign of poor self-regulation, right? Um, the president should not be tweeting, reacting to random news, right? It's making him look worse. It's making the U.S. Um, country make worse when their president is reacting in some of these ways. Um, Regardless if you agree with him or not, the reaction is a lack of self-regulation. Someone who has good self-regulation has a good comfort with ambiguity, right? Ambiguity being uncertainty. Where is this going? Some people are very anxious when they don't have all the information or when they're uncertain with what's happening. And so someone who's able to self-regulate can control how that makes them feel, right? And anxiety is a very big thing with lots of people these days, right? And so if you have too much anxiety, you might not be able to self-regulate, and so it's going to cause you to go into fight or flight mode or whatnot, right? When we talk about self-regulation, we talk about ADHD. These are things that are um, they're in the news because of people's inability to self-regulate, inability to overcome some of these things. And many of these things are medical, right? So it's not saying that they're bad or not. It's just saying that it's identified. We see it because self-regulation is an important factor in being able to being able to lead people, being able to lead organizations, being able to lead countries. It is extraordinarily important to be able to self-regulate, right? Um, how open to change are you? Right? If you are anxious about change, or if you are worried about having things the same, or if you are super worried about going to school next year, right? That's a change, right? Are you able to control how you feel about this moment? And again, we're not saying that anxiety shouldn't exist. We're not saying that you shouldn't feel these things, but it's, are you allowing these things to control your life, right? We do not want leaders whose emotions are going to control their decisions, right? Their decisions need to be trustworthy. Their decisions need to be thoughtful. Their decisions need to be in a place where they're comfortable, I'm comfortable, and we're comfortable that they've thought things through and someone hasn't just pushed one of their buttons to react, right? Self-regulation in a leader is extraordinarily important. People who have mastered their emotions are able to roll with the changes. They do not panic, right? We do not want panicked leaders. If you remember the Amy Cuddy video, the TED Talk about communication, we talked about testosterone and cortisol. The aggression hormone and the stress hormone, and she talked about how they want leaders who the testosterone rate rises up, yet the cortisol goes down, right? Because we don't want stressed out leaders. We don't want stressed, panicked, reactive leaders. We want, you know, strong, calm leaders. That's the leader we want, and that's the ability to self-regulate who you are. The third of the five components of emotional intelligence is motivation. And we're going to talk a lot about motivation in 2 units from now, or not units, but 2 sections from now. It'll be a module in itself. But we want to talk briefly about motivation as it is part of the emotional intelligence group. So motivation is passion for work, simply put, right? Passion for work that is not about money or status or title, right? Um, why do you want to do something? Do you want to do something because you're getting paid, right? How many fry cooks at McDonald's are passionate about it? It's likely they're doing it for experience as well as for the money, the part-time job or whatnot that it gives them. But how passionate are you? How motivated are you to work? Um, how motivated are you to pursue goals with energy and persistence? Like, think about your least favorite subject. Think about your favorite subject, right? Your motivation is very different with the two things, I'm pretty sure, right? How many of you see a problem and just have passion to solve it or to fix it, and you need to do it, even if that solution isn't going to change your life and all. There's motivation that people have for different things that are not about money, they're not about status. It's about how you feel about it. It's about how you want to succeed in completing this task. um, I would ask any one of you, like, what's your drive to achieve, right? And achieve at anything, right? It doesn't have to be academics. It could be athletics, it could be art, it could be music, it could be anything. But what's your drive to achieve what you're trying to achieve, right? Like, I don't care if you want to go into business. I don't care if you want to get 100% in my class. I don't care if you want to get 50% in my class. But what drive do you have, right? I can't pretend that everyone should have a passion for business or this course. But what do you have passion for, right? Can you identify it, right? Where is your motivation? What thing, right? Is your motivation to do um, play video games, right? And again, that may sound ridiculous. Your parents be like, "Oh, please don't talk about that." But there are people who make money playing video games, right? How passionate are you about technology? How passionate are you about learning how to be a computer engineer? Like, how often or how much are you coding at night, learning new languages to get yourself ready for that career in computer science, right? Where is your passion and where does it lie? What drive do you have to achieve whatever goal it is? And it doesn't have to be monetary, it doesn't have to be academic or money. It's a passion for work, a passion to work for reasons that go beyond money or status, a passion for the work in itself, a passion to learn something, a passion to get more information, to get more knowledge, to get more skills, to get more ability. It's not about the money it gives you, right? That's passion, right? Passion for something. So my suggestion is to find that passion. Where is that passion? What's activating that passion for you? Don't do it because it's going to make you money. Because ultimately, you're going to be doing something that might make you money, but you might hate it. And you'll soon realize that it's not worth it, right? Motivation is going to give you optimism, even in the face of failure. Think about people who are entrepreneurs. Think about people who have tried and tried and tried again, who have failed and failed and failed, hoping, trying, being optimistic, being motivated to pursue the next thing, right? This is a skill set. This is part of emotional intelligence. How can you drive yourself to pursue something? Organizational commitment. This one may be the hardest one to kind of dissect or think about. Um, how committed are you to whatever it is that you're doing, right? How committed are you to doing whatever it takes for your organization? Again, that could be a job, that could be a group, that could be a team, that could be anything. But how committed are you to it? How motivated are you? Like, are you going to go above and beyond because you are committed to something? Commitment is going to lead to motivation, and motivation is going to lead to commitment. They are one and the same. So, um, the more committed your group is, the more motivated they will be, right? So, part of a leader's job is to motivate themselves and to motivate others, right? How can I motivate my people to work beyond the money, beyond the status, right? How can I give them goals that they want to pursue? So can you understand how lots of this leadership talk is about understanding your people? Like, what motivates my individual person? What motivates this manager? What motivates that manager? Understanding these things is going to help me put them in positions where they are going to be motivated, where they're going to work with passion, right? And oftentimes these are skills that you can look at people that are more motivated and look at other people that are less motivated, just generally, right? What's making that person's emotional intelligence component of motivation better or worse, right? How do I tap that? How do I change that? How do I increase that or improve that? Think about yourself. Where is your motivation, right? How motivated are you generally, right? Are you very unmotivated generally, or are you very motivated for everything that you do? If you're trying to do it, why not be motivated at it? The fourth component is empathy. Empathy is one that I think people are hearing a lot about these days, that we need to dissect. So, what is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people, understand what someone's going through, understand what they're thinking, how they're feeling, right? This is very different than sympathy. Sympathy to feel bad for someone, right? That is very different than the ability to understand how someone else is actually feeling, understand um, what's going on with them, right? Sympathy is very, very different and um, very dangerous to mix up the two because they are extraordinarily different things and have different connotations. If you have empathy, you have a better skill in treating people according to their reactions, right? If you are empathetic, you can understand how they feel, and therefore you can react um, better, right? It's not just, well, you shouldn't feel sad. It's understanding why they might feel sad or how sad they feel and making determinations and making judgments based on that, um, versus any other criteria that you may want to choose, right? Can you understand how important that is to be able to understand how people feel, right? How many of you want a leader who understands how you feel rather than just doesn't care, or rather than just sympathizes with how you feel, right? Um, Understanding your people is paramount in leading them. If you don't understand them, leading them is going to be hard. An empathetic leader is an expert in building and retaining talent, right? Imagine that you understand your people, you know how they think, you understand how they feel about this and about that, right? That person is going to be far superior at retaining and building talent and skill set within an organization than someone who doesn't, right? Someone who doesn't understand or isn't empathetic with an individual isn't going to know how to motivate them, isn't going to know what they feel in any given situation, how they felt about the last meeting, how they felt about their last raise, how they feel about this new project, right? If you are a boss who can't be empathetic, if you're say you're a male boss, okay, and you can't be empathetic with a woman who is pregnant and is going through, say, morning sickness, right? If you can't be empathetic with that individual and you can't understand why they might be late that morning because they are puking all morning in the bathroom, that's a problem, right? You may be alienating one of your best workers because you are just too caught up with, oh, they were late, right? You need to understand how they feel, right? If you can connect with how people feel, then they're going to want to work for you. They're going to stay with you. And that's a cost saving thing. You don't want to be hiring new people all the time. You want to be retaining and building the people that are within your organization. That's why you hired them in the first place, right? Nowadays, emotional intelligence is huge in the news. It's huge in the books that we read. I'd venture to say almost too much, right? But it's important. Why? Because we're seeing cultures mix and mingle, multinational corporations grow. Um, it is becoming paramount in understanding your workers, your workforce, your customers, and everybody because of how much cultures have crossed. Um, you may be a leader who manages a team of 20 in 10 different countries, right? You better be skilled at empathy. You better be skilled at emotional intelligence to understand that culture has fundamental differences, to understand that you need to try to get into their mind to understand what they think and how they think and why they think, right? It matters. Um, there's no getting around it. We are getting more and more globalized. Again, regardless if you think that's a good idea or not, that's happening, right? Um, so you need to understand how to deal with this reality. Service to clients and customers, same thing. You want to understand your clients and your customers very, very well, right? If you don't understand them, then how are you going to service them? How are you going to sell them stuff? How are you going to be their choice if you don't understand them? The very word empathy seems unbusinesslike, out of place amid the tough realities of the marketplace, right? Um, the cold-hearted um, businesses of old would never want to talk about empathy, right? But we understand that it has a place, and whether you think that the place is large or small, I don't even know if it really matters. But you have to believe that it matters, a little, right? So why not put this skill set in your bag and try to get more emotionally intelligent, try to get more empathy or understand it, learn it, practice it, listen to people, try to imagine how they feel, try to put yourself in their shoes. It is something that is underutilized and underskilled, definitely. The last of the 5 emotional intelligence components is social skill. Social skill is the proficiency in managing relationships and building networks. Um, I feel like everyone understands what social skill is, but I think it's very difficult for people to try to replicate social skill, right? If you think about this room, well, not your room, but think about our classroom, think about this school, think about any situations that you've been in, I guarantee you, you can point out the individuals that have good social skill. And you can point out the individuals that lack social skill, right? It's about which person is a person that everyone gravitates toward. Which person is the one who's able to talk to everyone? Who's the one that can find common ground and build rapport? Who is someone that people enjoy talking to for whatever the reason? Right? Who's the person that goes to the outing or the party or the group hang and is just the one that is always brightening up the room where people's like, oh, someone so and so is here, right? It just livens things up. That's someone who has a gift of social skill, right? That person is extraordinary in leading change. That person is an individual that can gather people with them to lead them somewhere. It's a gift. Like um, I can't say that it's easy. Social skill is probably one of the ones that I feel like I have the least of, right? It's something I've had to work on a lot because I'm an introvert and I don't care that much, and so I don't like schmoozing. I don't like small talk. But these are things you have to learn, right? I was in the corporate world. I had to learn how to small talk. I had to learn how to go into a room and command attention, right? You go into recruiting seminars where you are trying to get the attention of recruiters, right? You have to have social skill, right? Lots of the business world deals, lots of outings happen outside of the office, in restaurants and bars, right? Social skill is important. right? It matters your ability to talk, your ability to be personable, your ability to just be comfortable and make the person with you very comfortable, right? How able are you to persuade someone? Someone with better social skills can do it better. It's just reality, right? These people are experts in building and leading teams. Again, these people might not need any technical, or they'll have to have some technical skill, but they might not need a lot of technical skill. They need the people, and they bring the technical skill by building a team and leading this team, right? They're the leader. They're the ones that gather the people with the technical skill and lead them in a direction that they choose because they're socially adept, right? Social skills is friendliness with a purpose, moving people in the direction you desire, right? So if I talk about myself, I have a group of friends that I typically will hang out with. We'll go out. We've known each other for a long time. Um, there are, I'll say, 5 of us in this group. 2 of us, not me. I'm not one of the two. 2 of them have extraordinary social skill. One of them's like 6'3", one of them's like 5'6". And whenever we go out, they are undoubtedly the two that get the most attention. They're the ones who strike up the most conversations. They're the ones who command the presence of the room, right? It's it's about their ability that's just natural. They were both born with this skill. Yeah, and the rest of us are trying to catch up to them, right? Social skill to me is one of the harder ones to do because it takes me out of my comfort zone. But again, it is one of the 5 components of emotional intelligence that you should be trying to grow, and that will only grow with practice. And so I hope that helped clarify those 5 points of emotional intelligence. I'm going to ask you to read What Makes a Leader by Daniel Goleman after this. That's where these 5 components come from that you should take a look at. And on EDSB, and I'll write this out as well, I want you to identify one of the 5 emotional intelligence traits as your worst. Which one of those 5 is your worst? I want you to write about why you believe it's the worst and give examples in your life that kind of confirm this, and what you're going to do to try to improve this trait. And give me tangible and achievable things that you will do to improve. Like, what thing are you going to try to practice, and how are you going to do this, right? So I want you to give what is your worst and why you believe it's so, and how are you going to help improve this trait. So again, if you have questions about this lesson or any of these topics, please send me messages and send me messages so I can respond to them either live or on the next video or over EDSB. And I will talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.